Hi everyone, it's Joanne here and welcome to another new tutorial. So previously we've painted this big sky, haven't we, and a little boat and its reflection, and I've been asked by you, or some of my members, will I paint boats? And yes, that's what I'm going to do. It's such a simple little subject, but you and I know now that simplicity is always the best. Let's not over-egg things. We're going to be painting a lovely little boat with its reflection, and we're also going to be looking at big washes that suggest a body of water with some nice linear curvy marks to suggest the reflections in the water. So I'm not going to waffle on any longer. Let's just crack on, shall we, and paint this lovely little boat with its reflections with our watercolours. Hi there. So materials we're going to be using for this one: a big jug of clean water. Always got my spray bottle handy, cup of coffee, or it could be a cup of tea, or any beverage of your choice. Two colours. I'm using a red and a black. Okay, I'm saying that because you can choose whatever colours you like. I've got a Pyrrol Scarlet, so that's the red that I'm going to use. And I'm calling it black, but it's anything but. It's the Sodalite Genuine. If you've not got that, you could use a Payne's Grey or a Payne's Grey blue shade, or any Indantrothone, that's a nice one. Any dark colour that you've got. So, but it is basically a black and a white, really, isn't it? Two brushes, a size 8 and a size 12. Piece of wax crayon or a waxy little pencil thing like this, or any kind of wax, really. Children's wax works quite well. And I'm working on a piece of Saunders Waterford, and I've drawn that out. But before I get to that, this one is one I did earlier. Those of you in the UK will know it's a Blue Peter moment. Here's one I prepared earlier, and it's on a Bockingford block actually. And I did a lot of spraying into this one because that's what I want us to do with this one, is create lots of watery texture. And I don't think the Bockingford takes that quite. I mean, there are some lovely areas, but I think the Saunders Waterford is going to give me a better result. So trying it on one paper, let's see what it looks like on the other paper. Right, okay, so we've covered everything up, haven't we? Yes, we're going to paint monochromatically, and we're going to add a little splash of red just to brighten it up. So my colours, I'm putting them on the paper as well because I want you to see how those colours interact, and I like to see how they interact, especially when you're painting monochromatically, so you're working from light to dark. It's always good to have a scrap of paper, then you can test that colour first. So the drawing wise, I will provide that obviously, but it's really simple. It's a boat, and I've put a very thin line here underneath to suggest a reflection. I'll just hold that up so you can see. It is very loose. I'm not putting any details in, just a very loose drawing underneath for the reflection and the little red boy there, and obviously the mast. And the rest of it, we're going to go wild and crazy. So, I want to preserve some highlights, so I could reach for my masking fluid, couldn't I? But I always reach for the wax because I like it, but you can use masking fluid. There's nothing wrong with that. I just feel it can make you a little bit lazy. That sounds awful, doesn't it? But it's great to try and paint by the seat of your pants sometimes and retain those whites. And that's not always easy, is it? So I like a little sparkle of the wax. And then it reminds me as well, oh, that's going to be a light area. So yes, I'll get off my soapbox now, but I do prefer a little bit of candle wax. And of course, that masking fluid is terrible to get off your brushes. So just don't get on with it at all. So let's choose areas that we want to be light. So I can see from my little study here, I'm going to have the light coming from this right-hand side. So the lights are going to be on the right. So let's put a little tiny dot of light into that boy. Let's put a little bit of the candle wax down that edge there just to catch the light on the top half of the boat. Maybe, yeah, a little bit down here as well would be nice. Maybe a little bit on the flag. Oh, maybe a little smidge there. And that's it. I'm not going to put too much more on. In fact, I'm not going to put any more on. Now, you may have noticed, I'll move my pencil, you may have noticed that I've put a tiny little bit of red and a lot of the darker colour. And that's because we're going to be using a lot of that darker colour. So, a size 12 brush is ideal for that. And what we're going to do now is we're going to paint over the whole thing. But we're going to try and remember where our lights are. So the centre bit here is going to be light and this bit's going to be light and the top of the boy, but the rest of that we can paint over. So let's start by mixing quite a light colour. I want us to work from light and then go darker as we go down into that foreground. So plenty of water. There we go. Let's have a look at that. I can even add more water to that, I think. Let's just keep going. And those vertical strokes. Your brush has to be so wet when you're doing a flat wash like this. And if you've got a bead of paint underneath like that, that's always handy because you can keep coming back into that bead of paint. It's when you get a dry edge, that's what you don't want. So you really want to be prepared. So I can see the little waxy bit I put on earlier. Just peeping through that wash. I'm just bringing that down. Let's make some more wash. Bringing it down. Now, got to a tricky bit, haven't I? So I'm going to work on this side as quickly as I can. Maybe just add a bead of paint there. Can you see what I've done? I've just added more water. And that line now will buy me a bit of time because it's just very, very wet. This, however, is drying, so I need to come into that. So I'm going to come down all the way. To that section. Now I can come back over here. Bead of paint. Let's show there's a bead of paint on this side. It's like spinning plates, isn't it? Don't worry you're not creating a perfect flat wash, by the way, because we are actually going to spray it. So you don't have to be too perfect here. See, that was a bit dark, wasn't it? But that's all right. Okay, now I want to retain the light on that side here. So I'm consciously thinking about not painting that shape. There we go, leaving that shape. I put a bit of wax on there earlier, so I think I'm quite okay just to paint through that boy. Is it called a boy? The little red one, the little floaty things? Maybe I'm getting confused. It's a nautical thing. We don't have to know what it is in order to paint it, do we? So, bringing that wash down, keep bringing it down. You can see I've used an awful lot of paint already. Just keep bringing that down. I'm going to start to go a bit darker as I get to the bottom now. Start to add a stronger pigment and just pulling it back up. Maybe some really, oh no, that is dark, isn't it? That's like almost pure paint. I'll give it somewhere to go. Right, okay. I'm so excited to be able to spray this, but I know that area is probably okay. This isn't. So let's just give that top half a little spritz. Yeah, so that's working nicely. I can see a little bit of white that I don't want. Here, I'm just going to lift away, put a bit of dark against that. So this waxy thing, sorry, this sprayy thing is really a matter of just biding your time. I can see a very dark line there, so let's just try and break that up a little bit. Again, just putting these lovely linear marks in with my brush, making sure that paint's got somewhere to go. Now it's a waiting game, so I'm not going to make you wait because obviously it's going to take about 5 minutes before that is ready to spray. You can see here I've sprayed it already and there's too much water. There's too much water on the paper and there's too much water here, so I'm getting big globules and I'm looking for those little tiny speckles. So let's just give this a quick one. So I think this needs to dry a little bit longer. So I'm going to hop off camera now, give mine another spritz when it's ready, and then we'll come back and have a look at the kind of texture we've created. So as you can see, it's nice and dry, and look at the difference. Look at the difference. I did exactly the same technique with the Bockingford as I did with the Saunders Waterford. And what a difference. I mean, that texture is just perfect on that one. This one's a bit hit and miss. So it's a lovely little experiment, that, isn't it, really? Just to show you really how different papers react to water and paint. So yeah, so the Saunders Waterford is working quite well. I should imagine that most of the expensive papers do, like the Arches as well. That would probably work equally as well. But you never know. You never know until you try. So down to the small brush for now, and let's start to add a bit of colour to our almost monochromatic picture. So let's just put a bit of splash of colour in, and I'm going to put it in on that lovely curve of the boat there, look. Just put that in here, and I'll turn my picture around because I want to do the same here. Hopefully, a little bit of wax there, just keeping that highlight for me. Let's put a bit of red into that shape, bottom of the boat, remembering to leave that centre bow or piece of wood. My nautical themes are getting worse by the minute. Okay, so that's quite nice, isn't it? And there was a flag there somewhere. There it was, yeah. So I'm just going to put a couple of squiggles there, look, and hopefully that will represent a little flag. And I probably put too much red on there. We're not going to need too much more. There's the little boy, so we'll just put that in. Look, you can see the wax now, can't you? It's just giving me that lovely little chink of light. Perfect. Any more? Maybe a couple of little marks and things. Right, so let's now do the same, but for the reflections. So let's reflect this red here. Let's reflect it down. It's like a mirror image, so it's coming underneath. And then this line here, which is straight here, is going to be a bit curvy. So we can kind of put that in like that, can't we? Make it a bit curvy. Underneath, so it's a mirror image. Can you see? Mirror image underneath. There we go. Just going to soften that down a little bit as well, just to make it, break it up a bit and send it into the water a bit more. But you can see how that reflection's working now, can't you? So I'm not going to add any more red for the moment because I'm going to start to go back in and put some stronger values into the boat just using the dark colour. I've forgotten what it is already I'm using. It's the Sodalite Genuine. How could I forget? Let's give this a little shadow underneath that section. And let's give it a little shadow underneath that section. Let's put a little shadow maybe down the side of that piece of wood. Take it up, take it up to the top like that. And I think this side needs a little bit more dark in that. So I'm going to just add just a smidge more dark. Let it blend into that red. There we go. There's nothing stopping you putting some little tiny bits of value onto this side, but try and keep that lovely curve of light that we've got. So now I've done that, let's come down and echo this shape here. So this shape is coming round. Doesn't have to be exact, you know. None of us are perfect. Remembering that little squidgy line in the middle. Remember, well, you're painting water, so you're giving it this wibbly, kind of wobbly appearance. I'm going to go around that shape just to show that off a little bit as well. While it's still wet, back into the red. Remember the curve here. It's a mirror image, so it's coming down like that. And we can confidently pop one in on this side as well. Perfect. Looks like a little love heart, doesn't it? I'm not sure that's what I was going for, but yes, a little love heart. Okay, so it's still wet, but let's carry on and let's take some more dark colour. And let's now start to anchor that boat to the water. So what I mean by that is, and it's still wet, I'm going to pull a line out like that, pulling it out, bringing it round and out. And it's bled into my little boat a bit, but that's okay. Taking some clean water and I'm pulling that shape out, pulling it out. So you can see what that's done for us, hasn't it? It's really pinned the boat down into the water. Let's do it on this side now, okay? So let's bring that shape and that shape, bring it out. Cleaning my brush, pulling that away, pulling it away. Keep cleaning your brush and just pulling that shape away. Doesn't matter if you go over the bottom or try not to go over the top one if you can help it. A little bit more dark, I think, just into that section. And you can see now it's starting to take shape, isn't it? I hadn't noticed before, but that is just a lovely heart shape, isn't it? I mean, it isn't at the top, but it definitely is at the bottom. So that's looking really nice so far. So I think one of the things that puts people off painting boats is painting these straight lines, isn't it, for this mast here. And you could get your rigger out or your sword brush, but let me show you a lovely little way of just creating that line. So here, I've just got a piece of watercolour paper and offcut, and I'm going to take my brush and load it with the dark paint and put it onto the edge. There's a little bit there I don't want on. I'm just going to load it on. How long do I want it? Probably about that long. Making sure there's plenty of paint on there. Okay, just take the rest off with my fingers. And I'm going to place it very carefully onto my boat. So I'm looking at about, right there, look. Oh, and it's missed a tiny little bit. That's so annoying. Just a smidge there, look. So I'm going to go back in. I'll put it back. There we go. That's better. And look at that. We've created a lovely straight line without the aid of a ruler even. And it just given us that nice impression of the mast here. I'm going to just tidy that little line up a bit, just on that shape. I'm not sure exactly if that's the right place for it, but it looks nice, so that's the way it is. I'm going to keep it like that. Right, okay, so I think we should let this dry because I want us now to just add a few more little tiny touches, and there's not a lot we can do really. I don't want to overwork it. I'm loving some of these textures, so I'm very much aware I want to keep them, but I feel we need more linear marks through here, so, and I want to make sure that's completely dry before we do that. I will, however, as always, just give that a cheeky spritz, and we'll completely let this dry. So we're nice and dry and ready for some final details. So obviously I'm aware I need to put a little rope in here and some nice reflections here. But before I do that, I want us to show off a light. So we deliberately waxed this area, didn't we, here? And I didn't wax down here. We've got that lovely light here as well. And it's a shame to have a light and not show it off. So let's just take another wash of the dark colour. And let's turn it this way. Because I really want to put a dark against that just to show it off. So I'm going to come out like so. Clean my brush and just pull that out. Pulling it out. There we go. And what a difference that's made, hasn't it? It's really helped to help this sparkle a little bit. But I am going to have to do that on the other side because it's going to look odd, isn't it? So again, I'm just taking that darker wash around the boat shape and pulling it out. Lots of water. Making sure that my paper is the right way. So if I'm painting this way, then the paint's going to settle here, isn't it? So what I'm doing is I'm deliberately turning my paper this way in order to give the paint somewhere to go. I think we need a little bit more here. Lots of water. Careful not to rub too much. I'm just allowing that to blend back into that top half. And that looks so much better. Let's take a little bit of dark here. Let's just put in a nice little ripple here. I do want to put the rope in, but obviously it's still very wet, so I can't do that yet. But let's just work on this area a little bit now. So let's take our dark colour again, and let's just start to suggest some darker marks. So this time I'm making marks, but I'm leaving, or trying to leave, some of that paper underneath. So I'm kind of trying to create a little bit of movement. Shall I do that again? So just nice linear marks like so. Wetting them with my brush, giving them somewhere to go. It kind of helps, doesn't it, to give this feeling of movement on the water. And as we come down, we can kind of make them a little bit choppier. Pushing my brush in and just putting these lovely linear marks in over the top of the textured area. Now, obviously, I'm very much aware that I don't want us to lose that textured area. So I think I should stop doing that because the nice bits are coming now. Just the tiny little details. We're going to put the reflection in for the masts, a few more little darks in the boat, and we'll be good to go. I may, by the way, while the camera's turned off, give that another spritz. There's no point doing it now. It's far too wet, but yeah, I may spritz it in between, in between films. So yes, see you in a second. So as you can see, I gave mine a little spritz while I was off camera. So let's now put in some nice details. So let's go in with quite a thick paint. I'm using my size 8 brush here now, small brush, and I want to make sure it's completely dry because I need to lean into it because I'm now going to just put some real darks into this boat, just like a secondary little shadow just underneath that section. And I'm definitely going to add one onto that section. Maybe a little dark here. Oh, maybe we could suggest the little rope there that's just connecting to that. You might even see just a bit of a reflection there from that as well. Oh, I could paint all day. I could keep adding details all day, and I often say it's very hard to know when to stop, and all our pictures are individual, so you'll be at different stages, but try and keep that in mind that you don't want to overwork. This is probably the most difficult bit because what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the mast in, but let me grab a pencil and show you. Obviously that's a straight line, isn't it? If I put a straight line here, that's going to ruin this whole kind of movement in the water. So I really want to make it a bit wibbly wobbly, so I'm going to go in with my pencil and maybe just give myself a bit of a guiding line there. So it's coming from maybe something like that, and there's a little flag shape there as well. We can just suggest that with a flick of the brush. And I think our little painting is done. Just think, when you get used to laying washes down like this in one colour, and I know some of you love your colour, and I know you do, but when you get used to doing it like this with the one colour, it really does build your confidence for when you're working in 2 or 3 colours. So it is worth practising. And obviously we've put a splash of colour in just, just to brighten your day. But yeah, monochromatic work, I can't stress enough how important that is. There are little tiny things I'd like to do to this one, but I'm going to stop at this point. Always a good, when you start to look for little things to do, that's the time to stop. So, brush down. I think it's time for another coffee for me, don't you? Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Take care.